Right, good afternoon Year 11, it's Friday afternoon and I'm going to do the most difficult extract of St Michael's things that we're very bad at, and extract 3 is Puritan threats to the Elizabethan regime. Now, behind me are some Puritans from Blackadder. Now, Puritans came in 3 different shapes and sizes. Presbyterians, who generally just didn't want bishops. Separatists, who wanted a completely separate church that was very Puritan. And finally, the Browntists, who basically wanted to be even more extreme from the separatists, from what I can gather. I won't worry too much about that, but that's the differences between them. But Puritans were, as we know, extreme Protestants who wanted everything to be plain and simple, Christmas to be cancelled, people should only eat turnips, dress in black, and do nothing that involved in any way fun. Right, Puritanism or Protestantism came from, I think, this fella here. Okay? Now, the main challenges were that's not a challenge, that's a flipping church mission. Come on, next one. Right, Cartwright. This fellow behind us here was a big person who challenged Elizabeth. He was a Puritan threat. Now, basically, he challenged Elizabeth on the basis of he didn't like the clothes that bishops wore. Here they are, bishopy type clothes, because he felt they looked too much like the Catholic Church. This became known as the vestments controversy, because these are vestments. Now, another fella who was a Puritan threat was, we think, we're not sure, don't hold me to this, but this fella in the background apparently might have been Stubbs. Now, Stubbs, I remember basically because he ended up with a stub, because he wrote a pamphlet criticising Elizabeth's marriage to a future French prince, and so he had his hand cut off for his troubles. Okay. Now, one other opposition I want to mention as well is the Marprelate Tracts, which was basically a pamphlet which, amongst other things, basically called Elizabeth a whore. So that was another major Puritan threat. They also existed, Puritan threats, largely in the Privy Council. Okay? So, Puritan threats mainly involved opposing the religious settlement, opposing the vestments that priests wore, opposing the English Bible, generally opposing the Queen, on the grounds that she didn't go far enough towards Puritanism. Okay? Right, next one. Now, this fella here in the background we think may have been one of a possible 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 MPs who opposed Elizabeth, because that was another area from where she received opposition from Puritans. Puritans were members of Parliament, and in Parliament they would generally stand up, and the way I try to remember this is they generally stood up and criticised her for a number of things. One of them was, again, vestments, what the bishops wore, the fact the religious settlement didn't go far enough, her marriage proposals, especially if they were to people who were potentially Catholic, and freedom of speech. Okay, so generally that's what MPs opposed Elizabeth, and they were Puritan, and they opposed her in Parliament. And it was one of the big challenges that she had to deal with, was MPs in Parliament. Now, the main ones I remember are Strickland, Cope, Wentworth. Okay, Wentworth and Cope were arrested for putting proposals forward to Elizabeth. So that's the main way that I remember it. Now, don't get too bogged down with this. It's just about the idea that whilst she had threats from Catholics, she also had threats from Protestants. The threats from Protestants were not as extreme, because obviously Elizabeth was a Protestant, so they were generally more happy, but they didn't like the religious settlement, didn't think it went far enough towards the side that they wanted it to. So that's really why they were in opposition to her. Now, her reaction to it largely came down to one thing, the Act of Seditious Sectaries in 1593. That's the main thing she did, at which point, if you're a Puritan, you could write leaflets or something like that, you could be tried for treason and put to death. Okay, so basically her reaction became more and more extreme over time, to the point of that. Right, thank you, good night, goodbye.